Welcome to EnigmaCast, everyone, and tonight's a special night. That's right, tonight is actually the 2-year anniversary of this show. 2 years of building this amazing community, sharing ideas, exploring mysteries, and just having a good time along the way. And because of that, I've decided to do things a little different tonight, something I've never done before. Before the Ancient Enigma Files, before the podcast, before the social medias, and all of that stuff, I had a series of events occur to me in my life that led to me wanting to start this channel and literally became the cornerstone of what this channel is about. In fact, those experiences literally changed the way that I view the world completely. So for our 2-year anniversary, we're going to go back to that episode where I opened up and let everybody know what exactly happened. EnigmaCast episode 52, and a lot of you have never even heard of it. We've picked up a lot of subscribers along the way, so I think now's the time to go back and actually revisit that. And just between you and me, it is one of the most personal videos I've ever done on this channel. I really opened up in that video and laid it all out. So right after this intro, we're going to roll right into it just like it was. No edits, no new lighting, no nothing. Just me being raw, telling the story. And I want to say thank you to all of you from the bottom of my heart for being on this journey with me, exploring the unknown. I really feel like I found my tribe. But enough with the chit chat, nerds. Let's get into it. The number one question I get asked on all of my platforms is, Joseph, why do I do this? What got me interested in UFOs, aliens, cryptids, forgotten history, conspiracies, and all that stuff? And I've never taken the time to answer any of those responses at all in any type of serious detail. And there's a reason for it. When I started this channel, I made a promise to myself that I was like, I'm not going to come out and tell my story until this channel is somewhat successful. And tonight, I think we've hit a milestone in this channel. I feel that we are somewhat successful. And tonight is actually our 52nd episode of EnigmaCast. It's our 1-year episode. So I thought to myself, you know what? Now's the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer that question in as great detail as I can. Why I'm so interested and why I know for a fact that we live in a world that is not really even close to what we understand. And it all starts with my story a long time ago. So sit down and let's get into this. I joined the Navy at a very young age, actually. I was actually considered an anomaly. I actually went into the Navy on waivers at 17 years old. I went to boot camp down in Orlando, and then from there I went to an A school in Pensacola, Florida. I was trained to be a spook for the Navy. I was a cryptologist, Naval Intelligence. By the time I had turned 18 years old, I had a TSSCI clearance. My very first duty station ever was in Japan. And I left January 6th. And I'm going to save some dates and some names in here to respect some people's privacy, because the story I'm about to tell you, people are still involved in it. And I don't want to, I don't want to cross any lines, but I can still get it across with holding out, exact names. So I landed in this place called Yokota Air Force Base in Japan. And when I took my flight, it's the longest flight I'd ever been on in my entire life. I left from the East Coast, from Florida, Pensacola, all the way up to Philly. And then we started heading east. And at the time, the military did things a little bit different. We would charter entire flights, and the flight would only be military personnel. There would be no civilians there. So we would stop along the way to pick up people. We stopped in Chicago, LA, Alaska, Hawaii, and then shot on over to land in Japan. When I got off the airplane, everybody also too would wear their uniforms, right? But when I got off the airplane, everybody had sponsors waiting for them, and they were holding up these signs with your name on it. And the people would see their sponsors, and they would go and they would take them to the commands that it was at. There was no sponsor there for me. I was just standing around and then looking around. But then when the crowd had cleared out, 2 gentlemen stepped forward, and they asked me what my name was, and I told them, and it's like, come with us. We're here to get you. But first, go in the bathroom and change your clothes. Take your uniform off. You're not in that type of Navy anymore. That's literally what they said to me. So I said, okay. Went, put on some civilian clothes that I had, got into the vehicle, and I have to be very careful what I say because when you get your TSSCI, you sign a contract saying that you would never make a movie or any type of books on what you experienced while you were basically on active duty. But I think I could do this without crossing any lines. So I went from Yokota Air Force Base to a Naval Security Group activities base called Kamisei, Japan. And it was right next to an Air Force, a Navy air base called Atsugi and a Army base called Camp Zama. But we were kind of hidden away. The base was actually a bombed out torpedo factory during World War II. And that's going to be relevant as the conversation goes on. What they used to do is the Japanese used to make these planes in Atsugi, roll them underground to Kamisei, where they would put torpedoes on them, and then they would roll them underground all the way down to Yokosuka Naval Base and load them on aircraft carriers and fly them out. But we bombed it all to death. And then when we took control of Japan, we just built on top of these bases. We just closed up the tunnels and we built on these bases. So where I worked was in a skiff. And I'm going to leave it at that. But when we were walking on the skiff throughout the area, you could hear the tunnels underneath when we were walking. They were hollow. And because I was a junior person at the time, I was an E2 or E3, I would have to buff these floors. We have to strip them, wax them, and buff them, right? So all of us were familiar with that. But that's not important right now. When I landed, it was whatever day it was. I went in, I checked into the command. The guys were like, hey, look, you're exhausted. It's a long flight. Get you checked into your barracks room. I was put into room 111. Now, the barracks I stayed in was an L shape, up and down, right? And I was put in 111, right on that side. That was the room. That was the room I had for 3 years when I was there. And they were like, all right, check in Monday morning. Somebody will come and get you. We'll take you down to the command. A lot of people don't know this in the military, but even after you get out of A school, you're a junior person. You don't just go right to work. You have to cut the grass. You do all kinds of weird stuff, man. Sometimes you work in the galley or you serving food. You just don't start your main job right away. So they're like, yeah, we'll come down and we'll get you. We'll take you down to 50 department or whatever it was. I can't remember the name of it. And we'll get you squared up down there. I was like, all right, cool. I was exhausted. I didn't know anybody. They issued me a gray blanket that said U.S. Navy on it, and it was the worst blanket I've ever had in my life. Typical blanket at the time. Pair of sheets and a pillow and this little bed. And I had, at the time I moved in, there were 2 roommates in there. They didn't get along that well, so they had actually quartered off the room so these guys did not have to see each other. So I was given a corner. They're like, here's where you sleep. I'm like, all right, no problem. Put it there. I had my foot locker, my stand-up locker was in the corner by the door. Put my stuff away. I was exhausted. 18 years old, furthest I've ever been anywhere, longest plane ride I've been anywhere. So first thing I did was take a shower, super hot, went right to bed. Now my bed was up against the wall. And then if you've ever been inside a military barracks room, at least for the Navies, we all get these little 4.5, 5 foot refrigerators that aren't really big enough for anything, just, to put real in there. But it's just a small little refrigerator, but they're all exactly 5 feet tall. And as I was laying there asleep, it was daylight outside, and in Japan, it stays overcast a lot. And it was the winter time. It was in January, and Japan gets very cold. I was laying in bed. Finally, jet lag had kicked in. I couldn't sleep. So finally, I fell asleep. I don't know how long I'd been asleep. I was in a very, very deep sleep, but something actually woke me up out of my sleep. I was actually facing towards the wall. And when it woke me up out of my sleep, I slowly turned, looking to my left, and standing beside the refrigerator was this shadow. Shadow of a humanoid shadow was by the refrigerator. It was exactly the same height as the refrigerator, and it was probably 12 feet away from me. And it was just standing there. And something, I don't know what, rolled me back over, and I went to sleep. And that was in January 6th. I didn't think anything of it. As a matter of fact, I just went back to sleep. and it didn't bother me or nothing. I woke up and then poof, started doing Navy stuff. Never even thought about it. 6 months later, right? I finally went through the 50 department, got assigned a team or a section at the time. We used to work this shift called 2-2-96, where you would work 2 12-hour days, have a day and a half off, 2 12-hour night shifts, and you would have 4 days off, right? I'd settled into my section. My section was a bunch of cool, great guys working in the skiff full time, doing intel stuff. And a lot of people like to think that we're always doing some type of high level, high speed, Jason Bourne, saving the world. It's not even close to being like that. We have a lot of downtime. And there is nothing more dangerous than 12 military guys at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with little to no supervision and not a lot to do. So we used to cut up a lot. And so we were in the skiff. The skiff was massive. It's one of the biggest ones I've ever been in. And we were just sitting around talking. And one of the guys that was in there, they started making fun of him. I'm not going to say his name, but because I haven't spoken to him in a while. And you'll see why as the story goes. And they're like, go ahead, tell us your story. Tell us your story. Tell everybody that story about your shadow friend, your shadow that follows you around everywhere. That's literally what they were telling this guy, right? He was like, F you guys. I'm telling you, man, y'all don't believe me. This is a problem. This thing, I can't even, it's all over me, is what he's telling them, right? So they were laughing and goofing and just cutting up, right? So I'm just sitting there. I didn't say anything. He got up, he left, went back. Some guys were playing cards or whatever. He went back to the maintenance section. So as soon as he left, I got up and I went back there with him. And I was like, hey man, what are these guys talking about with this shadow thing? What are they talking about? And he's like, yeah, man, it's nothing. But I said, hey, look, man, I saw a shadow man in my room, and his eyes lit up like you would not believe. He got super, super, super big eyes. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And it was funny because he was in room 107. And in the military, it's basically odds and evens. My hallway side was 111, 19, 107, 105. You get it. 103. It just goes down the list, right? And my mirror across the way would be 112, 110, 108. But he was on my side of the hallway in the L section of the barracks that we were in. So I had told him the story. I woke up, I looked over by the refrigerator, and there was a shadow man. He proceeds to tell me that he was having problems with this shadow things around him, and he wasn't the only one. There was another guy in there that was in room, I think 103, again on that side of the barracks, who was having problems. So I said, yeah, man, that's crazy, bro. I said, he's like, have you seen it since? I'm like, nah, man, I just saw it that one time, man. And I just hope, it's like, you know what, man, but I believe you is what it is. And I was like, all right. And again, I'm no hero. I'm no champion. I'm a junior guy on this section. I was the youngest guy at my command. I was the youngest guy, still 18. So went back, nothing happened. Literally, I don't know if my conversation with him or what was some type of catalyst, but literally within about a week or 2 weeks, other strange things started happening to me. I was dating girls at the time. They would come over to stay in the barracks with me. They would say something would be pulling their hair, or they would say that they couldn't sleep at night because something was making these noises. It didn't really bother. I never even noticed it. It never messed with me. My hair has never been that long. But I would also hear sometimes the locks on our lockers would sway. And I just, again, oblivious. I didn't think nothing of it. But then things started to progress. One night, I was in the room and I woke up. By then, one of the other roommates had transitioned out. So me and the other guy was there. We got along great. So we opened up the room completely. So we had a whole different layout in the room, except the refrigerator was in the same place. It's just how it was. That was the outlet. The refrigerator never moved. I was laying in bed. I woke up. Something woke me up. I look, but this time I'm in a sleep paralysis, where before I could move, but this time I could not move. I was totally locked, but I could move my eyes. And I looked at the refrigerator, and that shadow creature was there again, but this time he was about only 10 feet from where I was at. He was a little bit closer. He wasn't by the refrigerator, he was closer. And here's where it gets weird. He started making noises, and the noises that he made, and I'm going to try to, repeat this. The noises that he made literally sounded like this. Not to be weird, but it was like, that's what it sounded like. A whisper with about 30 people trying to talk at the same time in a whisper, making like just these noises, right? And it sounded just like that. It was weird. It actually scared me. Before there was no noise, before I didn't think of it, before I didn't know this was a thing. Now I had spoken to this other guy. He told me this was a thing. I saw it and it scared me. My heart started pounding, right? I couldn't move. I'm sitting there gritting my teeth. It's the first time in my life I've ever experienced sleep paralysis, ever. First time ever. I didn't know what was going on. Finally, I fight my way out of it. I black out, or I just stop for a second. I blink, I come out of it, and it's gone. I shoot up out of that bed like it was on fire. My heart's pounding 100 miles an hour. My roommate's not there. He's out with his girl doing something or whatever. I immediately left my room. I went down, knocked on the guy's door that had told me the story. I said, yo, man, this just happened in my room, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, man, it's been happening to me as well. This, that, and the other. And I said, well, you know what, man? I ain't dealing with this. That's literally what I said. So I started telling people, this is not something I kept to myself, or this is not something I didn't inform my chain of command about. I started telling people, first on my team, my section. They laughed at first, but I was telling them like, hey, look, man, y'all know me, man. Like that thing that he's seeing, I saw it as well, and it's doing this. And about the same time I told them that, other people on, that weren't on our section were saying the same stuff. Hey, like, yeah, man, I saw it as well. But again, it's like, what do you want to do? What do you want us to do, man? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to, and again, they made a valid point. It's like, yeah, what can I do? Right? It's like, all right, that's a good point, man. So again, I was like, you know what, man, that's just weird. And I just got a motor on. Right after that, about a month later, a typhoon showed up. In Japan, they get typhoons. They don't get hurricanes. But when a typhoon shows up, all the married guys get to leave and live off base, go take care of their families. And all the single guys, they have to go into work because, we're in the barracks. So, and it's actually pretty fun, man. So we would also do stupid stuff, man. We would have parties. We'd go outside, play in these typhoons. Again, like I said, we're not all that serious that all the time. So I had a typhoon had showed up. I got put on the typhoon team, had to go into work, whatever. Did the work, went home, me and a couple of my buddies. We goofed off. Went back. Again, it's pouring rain outside, wind's blowing. Took a shower, went to bed. Same thing happened again. I woke up. This time, the thing was only about 6 feet away from my bed. And again, my heart was pounding like nobody's business, right? And again, it was making this god-awful, weird, chattering, whispering, crazy, slithering sound, whatever it was making. It was horrible, right? And again, I'm fighting it. And I try to snap out of it. I blink out, whatever. I come back up. It's gone. I'm terrified. I jump up. I leave. Go knock on my buddy's door and like, yo, man, I'm sleeping here. He's like, that thing's in my room again. He laughed. I slept on the couch. Grown man, right? Well, I mean, I was still a younger man, but still in the military, and it scared me like that. So the girl I was dating at the time, I asked like, hey, look, man, this is going on. She knew what was going on. She's over there all the time. And she's like, hey, look, what we're going to do is we'll go to Shinjuku or someplace like that. I can't remember the name of it. And we'll talk to a monk. He'll give us some incense to burn. And, we'll just smoke this thing out of your room. Cool. Went there, gave the guy like, I don't know, 10 yen or whatever, 1,000 yen. I can't even remember what we gave him, right? He gave us some incense, did some monk prayers on it or whatever they did. Went back, lit the incense, walked around the room. She said some stuff in Japanese or whatever. And that was mistake number 2. Because whatever we did or whatever was going on, it pissed it off. It literally pissed it off. It made it. I'm about to tell you what it did. I had given her one time, I had flown to Korea for the weekend or something like that. I had to go over there, and I had brought her back some silk pajamas. There's nothing lingerie about it. It was literally a silk button-up shirt with some shorts, right? It was it. I just grabbed them out when I was walking through Seoul. No problem. I gave it to her. She just kept them there, and when she stayed over, those were her pajamas, right? So about 2 or 3 days after they had done that incense, well, me and her, after she had done that incense, I was laying there in my bed. I woke up. This thing is like right beside my bed with its head just peeking over the edge of the bed. And it was so close that I could see these 2 little white dot of eyes that it had. And it's making that noise again so loud. It's right by my face. And it terrified me. And then it did something that even made me even more terrified. It literally did some type of like back bend into like a crab. And it cackled weird. Like, I can't even explain it, man. It cackled and it freaking walked across the room, and it was wearing her pajamas. And I am in a complete terror at the time, right? And I can't snap out of it. Complete terror. Again, I freaking do the thing. I'm in a sleep paralysis. I break out. I jump up. I jump out of bed. This time I'm completely covered in sweat. My heart's pounding, and those pajamas are over there by the dang refrigerator. I broke out. Again, I jumped up, broke out, went down to my buddy's room, all the way down to the end of the hall. Knocked on his door. They're in there. They're actually in there having a daggone Nintendo video game contest, and alcohol was involved, right? They were playing Street Fighter. And there's 4 or 5 guys in there, and I was like, yo, man, you're not going to believe this. And they're like, holy smokes, man, that's crazy. And I'm like, yo, look, man, I'm going to crash here, man. So I ended up sleeping on the floor while they drank and played this tournament all night long. I got up the next day, went back, went in there. My roommate had came home. He had picked those pajamas up and laid them on my bed, right? I had told him my story. I was like, yo, man, you're not going to believe this. And again, I told more people, yo, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. And finally, one of my buddies came up to me and he's like, pulled me aside. He's like, yo, man, you need to shut up. He said, they're going to think you're nuts, bro. He said, you keep telling everybody this story, they're going to take your clearance away, and you might as well just be pushing them up, because a spook without a clearance is nothing, right? And I was like, yo, man, this is going on. He's like, yo, man, who cares? It doesn't matter, man. There's nothing to be done about it. And it says, you know, what are you going to do? And again, it was just that logic, man. I was like, all right. So I stopped, you know, telling people outside of my inner circle. I stopped telling them that, right? Again, several months later, I couldn't breathe. I was laying in bed. This was during the daytime. I was laying in bed and I couldn't breathe. I was on my side and I rolled over onto my back and I couldn't breathe. And I look up and this thing is sitting on top of me, but it had his hands inside of my chest and he was squeezing my lungs or squeezing something. His hands were in my chest, wrist deep, and I could not breathe. And so I rolled over again and so he rolled me back over. And again, I could not breathe. And so I started having this struggle. Again, I was in a sleep paralysis form. I was having this struggle. Finally snapped out of it. I jumped up, except this was literally broad daylight. This was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was working a mid-watch, right? My roommate comes in like 4 or 5 minutes later. I tell him what the story is, man. He's like, dang, man, that's crazy, right? Again, I told them what was going on. And then it kind of went into like a reprieve after that. It didn't go into it, like several months had passed. This happened over a 3-year span. I guess I'm not doing a very good job of pegging the dates on it, but it happened over a 3-year time period. About a year and a half into it, about the halfway point, about the 1-year mark, it got really crazy. And then it stopped for like several months, like 3 or 4 months. Nothing happened, right? And then literally it was in June. We were having another party. I went back to the room to get a bottle of rum, and I was going to get some Cokes. So we were going to just drink rum and Cokes, right? And I walked out into my hallway, and at the end of our hallway, going the opposite direction, there was these vending machines. And I was going to go down there and get about 5, 6, 7 Cokes, whatever, out of the vending machine. But when I came out of my room and I looked down, all the way at the end of the hallway, it was standing there. It was standing right next to the vending machine. And I locked eyes with it. Well, I couldn't see his eyes, but I, focused on it. He focused on me, and it started running towards me. I dropped everything in my hands, the whole bottle of rum, everything like that, some ice I was carrying, and I broke all the way down the other way, ran down the hallway, dipped into the room that we were in. I was like, yo, man, that thing's in the hallway. All these guys came out, looked in the hallway, man. And at this point, man, these guys are like, yo, man, I think you're nuts, right? Like, literally, these are my really good friends, right? But they knew me, and I'm like, yo, man, I'm not freaking out, man. I'm telling you, man, this is some weird stuff, right? But something started to change at that point, man, because they started laughing at me, right? Except for 3 or 4 other guys. That room was packed. When we were in there 20 deep, and it was, 10 guys, 10 girls or whatever, probably more. We were in this room packed, and that room wasn't even built to hold maybe, 12 people, but we were in there so deep, just having a party. Music was playing. The whole daggone side of the barracks was in there partying. But the people that were experiencing it with me, they didn't think it was funny. They knew the same stuff had happened to them. But the guys, my good friends that had never seen it or experienced it, who actually lived on the other side of the hall, they laughed at me, man. They're like, yo, man, you're just as nuts as these guys, right? So something inside of me started to shift. And I just started getting pissed off. Like, it went from scaring me to like, all right, now you're pissing me off, right? So again, a couple weeks passed, nothing happened. July, August, September went by. I woke up one night, I think it was right after my birthday. I woke up one night, I was in there by myself. No one was with me. And it was there again. But this time, there was like 8 or 9 of them in my room. And they were in all types of different weird sizes. One was sitting on top of the refrigerator, cross-legged. One was close to me. One looked like a little, I want to say like gargoyle crate, like a big old possum with wings, was sitting at the edge of my bed. And they were just all over the place, and they were all just making this weird, crazy, freaking like noise again. And so again, I panic, I freak, I can't move, I do the thing. I snap out of it, but this time something changed inside of me. I didn't jump up out of my bed and run out of the room. I actually took my fist, man, and pounded on my bed 3 or 4 times, and I sat up and I'm like, yo, WTF. I didn't go to anybody's room. I didn't go tell anybody anything. I didn't do anything, right? I was just like, all right. And when I was set up in my bed, I was sitting there, I looked over, and we had these old wood cabinets where you could pull it down, and we were supposed to use it to write letters. But in the Navy at the time, they would give you these little pocket Bibles, right? And I never even cracked mine, but like I had it there, right? There was a little pocket Bible. I was young in my faith, didn't even know how to read the Bible, to be honest. So I picked up my Bible, I looked at it, and I was like, all right, I said, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do, right? So looked at my Bible, put my Bible there, and I just sat there for like about 20, 15, 30 minutes or whatever, and I went back to sleep, and there was no problems, right? But in my mind, I'm calculating in my mind over and over and over again, it's only a matter of time before this happens again. And I can't get out of my bed. And I've said this before, if I could get my hands on it, I would tune this thing up. If I could just get my effing hands on this thing, I will hurt it, right? But I can't do it. Because I'm paralyzed, basically a sleep paralysis. And sleep paralysis, what they tell you it is absolutely not close to what it is, right? But one night, I was down at the skiff. We were working. I had made E4 by the time. I didn't have to do all the crap work. I was in the back, and the situation was just on my mind. It was just on my mind, on my mind, on my mind. I was back there by myself. And then something just said to me, something came in my head. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a feeling. Something just came into my head and it said, next time, fight it with your mind. Literally, that's exactly what came into my head, right? It wasn't a sentence. I didn't look to my left or look to my right. It didn't scare me. I was calm, but it just literally said, next time, fight it with your mind. And I was like, okay. So time goes by, nothing happens. Another Typhoon shows up, right? Again, I'm not married. I'm on the base. The Typhoon team activates. Single guys have to go in. I'm in there, right? But this time they're like, yo, McKinney, we got enough people. You guys can go back to the barracks. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. We'll call you if we need you, right? But they won't need us. The wind was blowing and it was raining, but it wasn't like the eye of the typhoon had hit the island yet. So I said to myself, you know what? I don't know why I did this. I said to myself, but you know what? It's time we throw it out. We have it out, man. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going to wait for it to show back up again. And again, I had talked to my friends about this. I had talked to the girls I was dating about this. I'm not going to wait again. So I went back to the room and I knew that for some reason during the typhoons, they got more active. So I called it out. I went back to the barracks. I don't know why I did it this way, but I was going to lay down on my bed and I was going to call it out. But for some reason, I felt like I needed to be dressed. I don't know why. I know it's weird. I got dressed. I didn't wear my shoes though. I got dressed, laid on the top. I laid on the top of my blankets. By then I'd been to Korea. I bought some really nice blankets and gave the old stuff back. Laid on top of my blankets. I laid down, closed the curtains. It was still, enough light was coming in to slightly illuminate the room, but I closed the curtains, laid on my bed, and I'm like, yo, bring it. That's literally what I said. Bring it. Went to sleep. And it did not disappoint. I was woken up again. I was in a sleep paralysis, but this time it was at the foot of my bed, right beside my ankles. And my first reaction was, because I remember I had been getting less scared and more pissed off, my first reaction was to jump up and tackle it and turn it into pudding, right? But I couldn't move. I was in that sleep paralysis state. But then again, I just remembered what was put into my head. So in my mind, I imagined myself shoving this thing in the chest as hard as possible as I could. And when I did that, it flew across the room and banged up against the wall, right? And then something even stranger happened. When it did that, in my mind, I had a moment of reprieve, like, yes, but that's not what happened. It screamed at me as loud as it possibly, it scared the shit out of me. It screamed at me so loud, and it shot right back at me. It's super fast, right? And I did like this crazy little convulsion thing, and then I snapped out of my paralysis, and I shot up in that bed. I don't even know how, without even bending a joint, I shot up in that bed, and I was standing on top of that bed. I was breathing like I just ran a mile, and I was covered in sweat. And I freaked out. So, jumped off that bed, grabbed my keys, grabbed my shoes. I was wearing high-tech boots. I'll never forget it. Put those on, walked out, inside, jumped in my car. I was driving a black Honda Prelude. Drove to Atsugi Air Force Base during typhoon conditions, calming my heart rate down. Pulled into a Kentucky Fried Chicken that they had on base, got a Dr. Pepper, sat in a corner booth with like 2 or 3 other kids that were in there just goofing off, but I was over there by myself. I sat there for about 2 hours while I calmed down, thinking like, just trying to process the experience on what had happened and what had went wrong, or just, in general, what had happened. And when that was done, I called my girlfriend, told her to come to the train station, the Sage train station. I picked her up, took her back to the base. I didn't want to sleep alone. Went in there, told her the whole story. It's fine. And here's Enigmites, what happened next. I'd been there 2.5 years, and it just stopped. It was just over. It just quit. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I don't have any rhyme or reason to it, but it just stopped. I did the rest of my tour. No problem. No more weird stuff happened in my room. Nothing happened at all. And it never troubled me again. Now, I have told that story several times to several people, right? Over the years. And it hasn't never changed. And I'm about to tell you a part of the story that only a few people know, that I've never told the majority of the people. My next duty station after Camisea was Naval Security Group Detachment Diego Garcia. So I landed in Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is, again, it's a British Indian Ocean territory in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's actually an atoll. It's built like a horseshoe. It's actually the rim of an extinct volcano. It's not an island. It's not a U.S. territory. It's a British Indian Ocean territory. I landed there. Got checked in, same thing. You know, I got checked in there. This time I was, a mid-level guy. I didn't have to do any weird stuff. Got moved into my room. My roommate was cool. It's great. Diego Garcia is very hot. It's tropical. I'd been there for about a month, 30 days, acclimating to the weather. I was already on my duty section. I was already doing everything I needed to do. I was coming off a mid-watch. I was laying in my bed. I was wearing nothing but basketball shorts. That's how hot it was out there. I was sleeping on top of my blanket again, and something woke me up, right? And I looked to my left. I was not in a sleep paralysis state. I was in, I could move some parts of my body, but I didn't have full function of my body. And I looked to my left, and standing right there next to me was a gray freaking alien. Now, at the time, I didn't really know what it was, but now that I know what I know, that's the best way to describe it. Matter of fact, I'm actually going to put the picture of it. I had ChatGPT help me, describe it the best I could, and it looked like this. And now that you've seen it, it was standing right next to my bed. It was about 7 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall. It was easily a foot taller than me, but it could not have been more than 120 pounds or 130 pounds. I did not have any fear. I did not have any anger. I looked at it, it looked at me, and we had a form of non-verbal communication. I did not hear a voice in my head speak anything. He did not physically speak, but he put in my head, I just want you to know that I can get you anytime I want. That's what he said. And again, my head turned back over. I never really went back. I never blinked out or whatever. And he was gone. I felt my whole body come back to me. And this is, I got to tell you, I'm going to be honest what happened. I wasn't scared. I didn't freak out. I literally just sat up in my bed, put my feet over to the side, put my hands on my knees, and I still remember the floor because there wasn't carpet. The floor was nice and cold on my feet. And I started laughing. So I started laughing. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. You got to be effing kidding me. An alien just told me that it could murk me anytime it wanted to murk me. That was literally what came to my head. And I laughed. I don't know if that was some type of coping mechanism. I don't know if that's just my weird sense of humor. I don't know if I was in some type of shock, but I just started to laugh. And I've never seen it again to this day. I've never seen it again. And I've only told about 4 people. Now I've told the entire internet that story, but I've only told several few people that, and I've never told anybody that there was some type of connection with the shadows that I was seeing in my room, and that thing was responsible for it. And people ask, and the people, when I do tell this story, again, I hate to be honest, I'm just too honest. People always ask me, what did it want? What did it say? What was it for? I got no idea. I got no idea. And I tell them, I literally don't know. My blood type is A positive. Everybody in the military knows their blood type. You get it told to you. Sometimes you write it on your boots. It's on your dog tags in case you get busted up in the field. They got to know your blood type. Everybody knows their blood type. I'm A positive. I'm not that crazy RH negative or whatever that is. I was nothing spectacularly special in that barracks. There was 9 other guys that was this happening to. We just happened to be living on the same block of rooms. That was it. And I never saw it again. I never saw the shadow creep things again. I never saw that gray alien again. I never saw any of that stuff again. But I do have some theories that somehow this thing was doing that on purpose to scare me, to make me scared. I don't know why they wanted me to be so scared, but to scare me. And then when I stopped being scared, I started being more pissed and fought back. And then when, that voice in my head told me to fight with my mind, then it was just over. It just stopped, right? And then I progressed later on in the years in my faith. I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. I love Jesus. Nope, he saved my life countless times. People that I love, he loves more than me. He saved their lives countless times. And I don't have any answers for it. I don't know why. I do know that I've done a lot of research, and I do know that these things bend the knee to Jesus. Some people call them demons. Some people call them aliens. I think that's a mixture of both. I think that some people call them the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. It's very plausible. That's in the book of Enoch right over here. Some people say that they're just demons fallen. Possible. Some people say they're extraterrestrials, and that Christ is king of all creations, multiverse or whatever, and they have to bend the knee to him. And you can go and look several alien abduction scenes, or alien abduction stories are halted when Jesus' name is brought into it. And so, yes, all that's going to probably cause is more questions than I have answers for. But at that moment in time, it didn't really click on me that, because again, I was a younger guy. But as my years progressed and I got more and more and more mature, this world that we live in is not even close to what we think it is. Not even close. Not even close. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, heard all that Fiduciary growing up on there. I've talked to I've got 51 episodes of Fiduciary. Dig into it and go look. Talking to people, hearing their stories of what's going on, right? And on the 1-year anniversary, here's my Fiduciary. So when people ask me, do you believe in this? 100% I believe in it, right? Because I was in it. I was in it for 3 years. I was in it 3 years and some change. And I do not have all the answers. And that's why when people ask me about my UFO, UAP, theories that I say that they're already here coming from underneath the earth, I firmly believe it. And now they just said they're living in the oceans. Shocker. Not for me, of course. And so that is why I firmly believe in UFOs, aliens, Fiduciary, spirits, demons, dogmen, Sasquatches, wild men, wild people, pugwudgies, you name it. It's real. And again, I don't have PTSD over it. I don't have any type of, I'm not a part of a group. The second question I get asked after people, when I tell this story, is like, did they ever take you away? Not that I know of. I have no freaking. I will tell this one thing that's weird to me. That's kind of a weird thing. I have no memories of ever being put on a craft, ever. None. Again, my story, pretty strong story, but it fizzles. Like I said, it just quit. I have woken up naked a couple times though, and I thought that was really weird, right? And when I've also heard other people having stories about how they wake up with their clothes on backwards, right? It doesn't happen often, I normally, I don't sleep naked. I'm crazy in case somebody comes in the house and I have to fight. That's why I always sleep with like shorts on, right? Or I'll sleep with shorts on or something, right? I can't sleep with a shirt on for some reason, but I can't not sleep unless I'm wearing shorts. And it is simply because of that strange reason that I'm going to wake up and there's going to be a guy in my room and I got to throw hands and I don't want to do it buck naked. That's the reason why I sleep in shorts. But there has been times where I've woken up completely naked and I just thought to myself, like, okay, I must have been really hot or something or whatever. And in my sleep, took my clothes off. But there is a few other weird things that I could tell you that's happened later on in my life that I think slightly may be connected to this or slightly may be connected to that. But it ain't going to happen on this episode's nerds. You're going to have to wait till one more year before I tell you that story. But anyways, that's my story, Enigmites. That's my truth. That's whatever it is. I don't know why. I don't know what they wanted. I don't think that I was anything spectacular that they were trying to do. I think I was just in the wrong place at the right time. And that was where it was at, man. I do think that I've always been a little bit more intuitive than other people. Like I think I have a strong sixth sense development. I don't know if that was it, if it was messing with me because I could perceive it. I don't know. I do know that if they couldn't turn our brains off and make us freeze, we would tune these things up by the dozen. I will take 12 out at a time, no problem. So, but unfortunately, every time you hear that story, the sleep paralysis kicks in, and sleep paralysis is definitely not something that prevents you from falling out of bed at night. That's totally not. If you've ever been in sleep paralysis, then you know exactly that it's not natural, right? But I don't have any more answers than that. But again, it didn't break me. It didn't make me, I might have had some PTSD effects or whatever, but it was just added to the other bucket of PTSD stuff I might have had at the time that I've been able to work through in my life. But that's that, really. That's the story. And again, I don't know why. And again, it hasn't happened since. And yeah, and that's it, Enigmites. That's my jam. That's it. So now you know. And that's one of the reasons why I started this channel, and I made the conscious effort not to be the first episode that I ever talked about this channel, because what I would like you to do before considering my story, I don't really care if you believe it or not. It doesn't affect me. Some people didn't. My friends still laugh at me about it. Some of them still believe me, but like I'm still in contact with the people that was there. Actually, one of my roommates at the time. It's not going to affect me, right? But go watch my other 51 episodes and you will see that this is the first time you've ever heard me spoke about this. And you will see that if you watch any of my stuff, you'll know that I'm a kind of down-to-earth guy who likes to laugh and have fun. But I will say one thing that it has done is that it has given me the ability to tell when other people are not telling the truth about things that they've experienced like this. These I have spoken literally to, without them knowing my own experience. Abductee survivors is what they call themselves, or abductee experiencers. And when I hear them tell their stories, I'm thinking, I can easily be like, yeah, that's not true. They don't care about us. When you hear stories talking about how, hey, they're telling us, we gotta, stop using plastic spoons, or, something's coming, or, this day something's changed. Those are lies. And I'll tell you why they're lies. We have lab rats and lab monkeys that we celebrate their birthdays. Hey, Congo, today's your birthday, and then we give them anthrax. So they're not whatever they're doing, they're not supposed to be doing. I'll tell you that. But there's no care involved, right? So when people say, oh, they're trying to heal me, no, they're not. They're trying to study you for whatever reasons. And I don't know the reasons. And sure, there's a chance maybe that your experience is different from mine and the other guys that they were going through as well. It wasn't just, it wasn't just me. Like there were other team members that were telling me about it as well. But I ain't never heard stop cutting down the trees, or I ain't never heard of anything like that. The ones we were dealing with were about something else. And again, but anyways, you know what? Hey, I don't hate on anybody. I don't judge anybody. You be you. All right. You be you, friend. But anyway, so That's my story, Enigmites, and that's how it went down, and that's all you nerds are going to get for $1. But before you take off, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, share this video to any skeptics that you have, and again, I'm also impervious to any type of criticism or whatever. If you got any questions, you can ask them in the comments. If you got any funny jokes to say about it, throw them in the comments too, because trust me, all of my friends are freaking savages, and there's nothing that you could say that these guys haven't said in public in front of women to embarrass me to make me laugh, right? It's all good and it's all in good fun. But either way, thank you for watching the 52nd episode, our 1-year anniversary of EnigmaCast. We got 52 in the books. I'm so excited. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful for everybody that's participated in my channel. I'm so grateful for everybody that's been a part of this journey with me. And we're no looking back. We're only getting speed and moving forward, right? So anyways, heart you nerds, and we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.